rewind.
Willie Farley going left. Step back. Willie Farley down.
We've only lost 2 games at home, so it's a good start for us into the final series.
We go into Adelaide fearing nothing.
And what a circus trick from Martin Cannellini.
Over the last month and a half, this team has played as well as any team in the competition. I would not expect Adelaide to be anything but tough as hell.
We have to win to go on, but now it's, well, we don't want reason to retire just yet.
Hello everybody and welcome. It is NBL Rewind. Hashtag NBL Rewind to get involved. And if you're watching us, the odds are you've just watched an absolute classic. This is fun. This is fun. We had a team that got hot, taking on the 36ers. Phil Smythe, of course, and that successful generation of players. But this Cairns Taipans team were balling. We've got a legend of the NBL. We're going to get to Stu in a split second. But Liam, hello to you.
Hello, Cam. Yep, enjoyed this one. Another heartbreaker for the 36ers. I feel like we've shown a few heartbreakers for the 36ers. And our man right here was the man who ripped it right out of the chest.
Just ripped it, just reached the hand straight in, on the ground, the pile in, as we all seen in the Cairns Taipans player as well. Anthony Stewart, NBL legend. Hello to you.
Good afternoon, boys.
Mate, we can spend, I reckon, 5 hours on this game. But we will start at the very end because the pylon. You hit the shot, you threw an elimination final, and it's a pylon. You're at the bottom of it. Your recollections of that actual situation, because it's always a weird situation. You hit something and then you get smothered by teammates and can't move for a short period of time.
Yeah, it was. It was an amazing feeling for the Taipans because that obviously pushed us through into the semi-finals, and it could have went either way. That last 5 minutes overtime was some of the best basketball I'd been involved with. It was just it was incredible watching Darnell and a few of those other guys, Catalini, going to work, and I actually got to watch a lot of it from the Pine that game. But Blackie made a very good decision and put me in at the end. The last 3 seconds, I think it was. But I've hit 2 game winners in the NBL, my NBL career, and both on Brett Maher. So Marzi couldn't be feeling good after that.
Do you talk us through this game winner though? Because as you say, Blackie, the ball goes out of bounds, 4 seconds left, bang, bring Stewie in. You come in, you run the end-ball play, and I think Farley gets his hand on it the first time, so it was a false alarm, went out of bounds. And then you just opportunistically just went, stuff this. They're not watching me. I'm going to the corner. What did you see in that moment, and what do you remember about that feeling of, holy heck, it's coming to me and I'm wide open?
Yeah, I wouldn't have liked that situation probably the first 5 or 6 years of my career, but this was getting towards the end. I think it was my second last year. So you sort of don't really, you're sort of in the moment. So you're coming on and you know you've got to play a role. There wasn't really much going through my head outside. If it came to me, I'd shoot it. And obviously Darnell had the confidence to kick it to the corner. I think the game, the play before, like you said, Farley got his hand to it. I think they thought we were going to Burgess in the middle, and they've basically left that wing. Marzi shouldn't have got caught twice in a row. He left me, he covered the paint and paid the consequences, Liam.
On that though, like what goes through your mind, and you've been around for a long time, and confidence was something that, obviously you were ready to go at any given time, but huge moment in the franchise, in the history of the franchise, and the tap on the shoulder. What goes through your mind there? Like, how was it easy to remain confident knowing that if you got the pill, you had to let it fly? Like, what goes when you haven't played a great deal?
Yeah, it's, you don't really think much about it. It's more just, you sort of got that confidence towards your end of your career that if that shot comes to you and you're wide open, then you put so much work in, it really doesn't even get into your head. It's just automatic. It's just like you've just done it over and over again. So, yeah, it was a big play. Things went my way. And I just remember after the game, Steve Carfino interviewed me. And we were talking, and there's water bottles coming at me from out of the crowd. You know what the Adelaide crowd's like. Yeah. And I sort of stirred them up a bit, and probably they took it the wrong way, and I started copping a couple of water bottles, so the interview was cut short. But it was you couldn't do it in a better venue either, because Adelaide people understand their basketball well. So that was, and they'd beaten us a few times over the years when I was with Perth. They had that great teams that kept knocking us out of the playoffs. So it's a bit of a just reward.
One of the things I loved about this play, this moment, was it was so euphoric. Like, you've won a couple of championships, and when the buzzer goes, sometimes you've already known for most of the fourth quarter that you're going to win, or this was on the road.
Yeah.
It was, you just come into the game. It was just catch and let it fly. Can't even think about it. And just watching the smiles, Chris Burgess just wrapping you up, and Kane Oakley trying to drag you into the locker room. It just looked like a perfectly euphoric basketball moment.
Yeah, you talk to a lot of, like, when we returned, I remember the crowd meeting us at the airport, and they said the pubs and hotels were just packed. So Cairns, obviously a regional town, and this is why I've been so passionate about Tasmania, to set that same sort of passion and culture. I believe the whole state down here will get behind the NBL. So Cairns, when I first arrived there in 2000, we'd won the championship. I ended up going to Cairns for less money. I could have stayed in Perth for 3 years, but wanted to captain a team, and it was really tough times. That first 12 months, they looked like folding. I remember having to fly down to Tassie and raise some money from a guy called Al Hansen to try and keep the club afloat. So you're talking about times there in 2000, to that reward at that buzzer beater was just something that I'll never forget, and I'm sure the region won't. That sort of kick-started the Taipans pathway through to, they've been very successful since then.
Did you regret it at all? Were there times where you regretted leaving the Wildcats, who have been, a storied franchise for so long? Did you think, geez, what have I done here?
Yeah, I did. 6 months in, I remember catching up with Blahoff, and he tried to convince me to come back, and I sort of wanted to captain a team, and that's the reason I went there. Did I? Yeah, I feel like I could have won a couple more championships at Perth, but at the same time, I ended up with my own TV show in Cairns. I was sort of the face of the program. We had a TV series called Stewie's Dribbles every Wednesday night. Like that stuff you never forget. And having that opportunity and just going around the town in Cairns and everyone knowing you, that doesn't happen in Perth. Well, not to the extent of a small region. So I did enjoy it. Do I regret it? Look, I loved Perth as well. I had 7 fantastic years there as well.
One guy that was a part of this game that we just watched was Aaron Grabeau. And we saw not too long ago his jersey raised to the rafters there in the Cairns Convention Centre.
Yeah. And
deservedly so.
Well deserved.
You are still the all-time leader in terms of scoring and assists for that franchise. Are we going to see the number 23 up there at some point?
Oh, look, I'm very good friends with Mark Beecroft, the CEO. Like, we've been pretty tight, and I have pushed that question to him a couple of times, and he just comes back with, why did you sign with Townsville for 5 games? And
5 games in Townsville? We got to make this. We got to make this happen.
Oh, look, there's 2 ways to look at this, right? Because one, you 100% deserve it, 100%. But if you spend 5 games with Corey Homicide Williams, it's enough to hurt you where your banner and your singlet, it don't get raised to the rafters. So I just don't know where we sit here. So essentially, there is no doubt you deserve, I think that if you look at majority, and we've had players on NBL Rewind, Liam, that have had their jerseys raised to the rafters and are going to happen soon, Sean Redditch, where we essentially think that it should happen to you as well. You know what? I'm not going to a Cairns game until it happens. There you go.
Me either.
No, but the thing is, there are some guys whose jersey gets retired because they play 500 million games for that club, or they win a bunch of championships or grand final MVPs or things like that. But there's something to be said for putting in the hard yards during the early stages of an organization, helping to put that thing on the map. And you did that for a bunch of those years, and during that period of time, which was such a grind. And then, of course, this shot, which was a big moment in the club's history. I think it would be a great thing for them to do.
Yeah, I think, as I said to Mark, I think the major reason I went there is I always had my focus on trying to reach that 500 game milestone, and I've fallen a few games short. So I think that was the reason for going to Townsville. And look, would I have changed my mind back then? Look, Trevor Gleeson was awesome. I'm glad I went there. I formed a great relationship with him personally. And I think he's done an amazing job across his coaching career as well. So to play under him was something special as well.
In a situation as such as like you're getting towards the end of your career and making decisions based on how many games you've played, or maybe going to a club that you might not how hard was it? Like, when that opportunity does arise and you're right at the very end, you got a couple of great clubs, you've been at the Wildcats, you've been at Cairns. You know, was it an easy decision to make? I know why you just said you made it, but was it an easy one to make, or was it like,
Oh, I felt like my career got cut short. I think my last year with the Cairns Taipans was one of my best productivity wise, like points per minute and assists and things like that. I had a great season. I think I averaged 13 in that last year. And to me, I always said to Alan and the Cairns Taipans, I just want to come off the bench for a year and enjoy my basketball, which happened a couple of times towards the end, but I'd always get dragged back into the starting lineup. And the old point system really impacted on me personally. I think I was an 8 or 9 point player, and at 38 years of age, they had to make some decisions. So probably wasn't the right decisions poor old Blackie made in the end. They struggled the year after, but that certainly, I just wanted to play. That's all I've ever wanted to do. And I always do these clinics and work in the schools down here at the moment. The first thing they say is, I ask the kids, why don't I play anymore? I'm too old. I'm too old to play. So that's why I coach.
Just before we move on to Wildcats and Tasmania and all else, like Homicide, one of our favourites here, of course, NBL Overtime. What are your recollections of a short, brief time you spent with him as a teammate?
Overrated. But no, seriously, great guy. Was pretty special in his early days. We actually looked at recruiting him. I think he was playing QBL with Brisbane, but he just had no jump shot, and that's what probably impacted him in the end. He could create for the team, and he was a very good player in this league, as we know. But I had a lot of fun over those 5 games that was just too short.
It's kind of unique to hear a 489 game player who retired at 38. So his career was cut short. In many ways. But it's funny how things work out. Let's take it right back to the beginning though. Started off at home in Tassie. Cal Bruton, your first ever NBL head coach. What are your recollections of being with the Devils those first couple of seasons? Yeah,
I think the way I made the NBL was probably the point of difference. I remember I was playing in Launceston in what was the CBA back then, I think it was. And Cal actually made the trip up from Hobart in his first year. He just signed to have a look at a guy called David Stiff, as we all know. And we were playing against Knox that night. We were 4th on the ladder. They were on top. And I just could not miss that night. And I think I dropped 40 in that game. Just a one-off ripper game. And Cal came into the change rooms and he said, hey, Anthony, do you want to play NBL? I said, yeah, I'd love to. And that's how I got recruited. And from there, it was, that was just, I wasn't always chasing an NBL contract or anything like that. I just loved the game. And I still love the game. And that's why I do it. I just, probably a safe haven for me when I was a young fella. Hung out at the PCYCs all the time, just shooting hoops. I developed really late, didn't make state teams until under 20s when there weren't enough players to play with the Tassie team. And 4 or 5 years later, you're playing with Australia. It was an incredible journey. It wasn't the normal journey that you see.
Who taught you to shoot? 8th all time in the NBL for most threes. Still the franchise leader for the Devils, only 3 seasons there as a young fella. But you just made you could do a whole bunch of things, but your career was mainly based around your ability to knock that thing down. Who helped you develop that stroke?
The PCYC, like just living in the gym. And I tell young athletes today, if you want to be a great shooter, you live in the gym. And the only guy that I ever met and trained with that shot more hoops than I did was John Riley. when I joined Townsville, I was absolutely shocked because I always prided myself on being the first to training, last to leave, and making sure that I'm getting up more shots than anyone else. And John always threw up 500 shots after the 2-hour, 3-hour training session. He'd get another 500 shots up straight away. So there's no easy road. Pretty simple, really. You just got to get repetition and a lot of shots up.
Tell you what, Liam, we're on the way to having the entire Townsville Crocodile roster that season on NBL Rewind. We've had Homicide, of course. We've had John Riley. Now we've got Stewart, just slowly working our way through the crocs of that particular year. We're going to talk plenty of Tassie, but the move to Perth and the success that came with it as well. When you look back on those years, and you're playing in such a wonderful organisation, such a wonderful team. You mentioned Andrew Vlahov earlier. What's it like for yourself? You know, a young kid who just wanted to play basketball, being with one of the best and part of one of the best teams for a number of years.
Yeah, so my first year there was probably the toughest. Just a new environment, hanging out with guys that obviously demand a lot of respect. And I remember after we won the championship in the first year, I think that was the year the Giants folded, or Pat Reedy was interested in coming to Perth, and they were trying to free up some money. And I nearly lost my 3-year contract after the first year, even though we'd won the championship. And I think the team basically said through Ricky and Andrew and Scott, no, we need to keep the same crew. Stewie's been an important part of that. I didn't have a great year. So the first championship, I felt like I didn't really do much, and looking back. But over time, and that's what made it great, is I loved the crowds, the community, the work that we did throughout the schools and everywhere else. And by the time I reached that last year with the championship, I felt a big part of that. I think I dropped 20 in the final, 25, and Timo had a great game. But those guys, it was Scott Fisher that mentored me. He came to me after that first year and said, do you want to be a long-term NBL player, or do you want to be a short-term? And I said, well, I want to play as long as I can. And he said, well, you're going to shoot with me every day. And we'd just go in there at 3 o'clock every afternoon, and we'd be putting up shots. And I think Scott Fisher would probably save me from an early exit out of the NBL.
Do you think when Fish looks back on that moment and asks you that question, that it was going to lead to 489 NBL games? Because that's remarkable.
No. And yeah, it went so quick, like 489 games. But I have no doubt that I would not have made that 489 without the support of Scott Fisher at that time.
Did you consciously pay that forward later in your career? Take some guys under your wing?
Yeah, definitely. I think he set the bar for me as far as what I needed to do to be successful. And I think that, and along with Brian Gorgin's training regime, Guy Malloy coached us, who'd been under Brian for a long time. So a lot of what Guy did was when he left the Titans with Brian, he implemented that into Cairns, and he did an amazing job prolonging my career and making us better even at an older age. It was ruthless up there. We never trained harder than I ever did in Cairns. Wow. So he did a really good job of prolonging that as well.
Hey, shooters let it fly. Did you have a gym? Is there a gym in the country that you really liked?
Oh yeah, Snake Pick back in the day. Geelong was awesome as well. I didn't mind any gym really. I love shooting, so I was not shy.
Hey, in fairness, you hit a lot of them all around the country, so you should have
I missed a lot too. I missed a lot as well.
Shooters like you and I, Cam, like particular rims. Shooters like Stewie just like the rock.
Yeah, that's exactly it.
Stewie, you talk about that first year in Perth, the 95 championship. We had Kat on a little while ago, and we were talking to him about the trip over to play the Rockets, the McDonald's Open, what you guys were able to do over there. What are your memories of that whole trip, including the flight and the Qantas lounge and the whole thing?
Wow. That was, that was my first championship, obviously, with Kat. And look, I think there was 3 of us that we sort of got ourselves into a lot of trouble at stages. We loved hanging out together. It was Aaron Trahair, myself, and Martin Catalini. We sort of enjoyed each other's company, had a lot of fun. And the Houston Rockets was, I can't remember much about it. It was just so quick. It was like championship, onto the plane, into a Qantas club. So we're sort of trying to celebrate and get ready for the Rockets. And I think the Rockets became second behind the celebrations, to be honest.
It was one step at a time, wasn't it? You got to
It
tick one
was.
box and then
Yeah.
go from there.
Well, you only get a couple of championships in your career if you're lucky. And that first one was sort of that set the stage for the future years.
It's been a great 12 months. We spent, and I put my hand up, outside of King Island a few times to play golf. I'd only been to Tasmania for like 12 hours for a wedding once. So I hadn't been to Tassie before last year's NBL Blitz, where we were able to obviously be a part of the preseason action and call games. A beautiful state, never going to deny that. But the excitement, I think, really started to rise at the Blitz. And then with the announcement that we're going to see an NBL franchise back in the state. Like, emotionally and personally, what does that mean when that announcement was made of the build-up for it and where we sit today?
Well, we've been so close so many times before. I felt like there was reasons for not having a team down here, with Tasmania being a small bubble and the economy not being as good as the rest of the country. But to be like the last 2 to 3 years, Tasmania's just gone absolutely gangbusters down here with our economy, the tourism and hospitality, which has obviously been impacted at the moment. But you really couldn't. There's a lot of people moving here. We feel like we're ready. And I've always said the first sport out of AFL soccer and basketball that can establish themselves in Tasmania will be the number one sport in 2 or 3 years' time. And I think now is basketball's chance to own this state. And you look at Toronto, similar scenario. Like I really believe this state can get behind this brand, and we won't look back. We'll be twice as big as Cairns Taipans, or 3 times. I really think we can hold our own now.
What can you tell us about the interest in basketball from down there? Like we saw the Southeast Melbourne Phoenix come into the league last year, right? And it was all about how many people play the game in that area of Melbourne and the massive interest. Do you feel like tell us about the history of the game down there.
Oh, well, you guys have been around a while. I mean, if you look at, all I can go off is like the old Siebel. We played, we had a great season. Our crowds are over 2,000 every week. We played Geelong in the South Conference final, I think it was, and we ended up with 4,000 sold tickets and 500 people missed out. That's Siebel. And Siebel is like, you got a couple of imports. Obviously, we had Craig Moller down here, but we had Mathiang Mua and one other import, and we're getting 4,000 people to a game. Can you imagine if we had our NBL team down here established, working in the community, promoting the brand? It is going to be huge. We will have sellouts every week. We just needed that opportunity. I think it's just everything came at the right time.
So just on that, led to, of course, a national championship in 2018. How much, and obviously economically it had to work out and so much of the stuff off court as you touched on, but the successful program at Hobart and in Tasmania, but in particular at Hobart, national championship, do you reckon that helped? You're a big part of that. Do you think that helped as well when you've got a successful team winning, but also getting those crowds?
Yeah, I think the momentum, David Bartlett in particular joined his ex-premier. He came in and we were basically 120,000 in debt at the time when he joined us in 2016. I approached him and I said, look, I'd only just come back as well because they looked at the charges looked like folding. And I said, yeah, well, I'll put my hand up again. And then I went and approached David, and David came on. And the way he was able to engage us in the community, and I think that's the biggest part for me, is we got funding off the state government to get into the schools and the community and work that. And that is the point of difference with Perth. I think with Cairns and us, they're the 3 franchises that I know that work really hard in the community. And that's why, as Beecroft will tell you, it doesn't matter whether they win or lose up there. If you look at the percentage of their attendance, it's not that much difference because of the work they're doing out there in the community. And that has to be the number one focus for us. And I think we've done that really well down here. And that's why it's really turned over the last 3 or 4 years.
Is there a buzz around the state about the NBL team coming in?
Yeah, look, I think Tassie's always been a football state, no doubt, but I think they're frustrated down here that we've sort of been left to the side every time there's a new team like Gold Coast, Greater Western Sydney. Tassie's like, hold on, well, why aren't we getting something down here? And I don't think people on the mainland understand that now that NBL's here, we will own this state in 2 or 3 years. I guarantee you every kid will be out there dribbling a basketball or buying backboards and rings and shooting hoops. It's going to be big.
Yeah, just on that, for people who aren't from Tasmania, and I think from a perspective, we're talking, say, more fully, and I'm talking from a radio background where people go, if they're based in Hobart, other part of the state, they're not going to get involved and all the rest of it because of the rivalry. Is that going to be an issue in the NBL, do you think, if the team plays in different stadiums in different parts of the state?
Yeah, it's a really good question. I think the thing that scares me about that part is having the ability to be able to get out in the community and demonstrate your brand. So I'm not sure what the NBL has in store there. What has worked well down here is we've sort of captured the community. Mm-hmm. Can you do that in 3 different regions? I'm not sure. I don't know how. There'll be a lot of people travelling down. There's no doubt about that. But how much, if you play a game in Launceston, how much of that community can you grab if you're sort of based in Hobart? But there'll be discussions in the near future.
Because I don't know about you, Liam, but I didn't realise that the rivalry was so strong in different parts of the state. Like, I was unaware until probably 3 or 4 years ago when this conversation about an AFL team or an NBL team or an A-League team going down there. I was unaware of it until that sort of started to pop up.
Yeah, and which is why, it seems like it's such a big focus for the NBL in terms of this team, is that it is a team for all of Tasmania. That's what they're going to try to achieve through all of this, which is why they've said in searching for the name, it starts with Tasmania. Yep. Right? That make no doubt about it. You want to put in a suggestion of what it's going to be, it's Tasmania something. What are your thoughts about the name? There's been a whole bunch of different names thrown about in this couple of weeks. What are you thinking?
So I've had mine the whole way along that I've sort of promoted, but the guys sort of laugh at me about it. And I call it the Tassie Jack Jumpers. We're the only ones with Jack Jumpers down here. And I wanted to turn the deck into the anthill. And if you come there, you'll get bitten in numbers. So don't come anywhere near the deck. But
I like the amount of thought you put into the whole situation. You just haven't got a name and stopped at it. You just continued to go through to be able to grow. I like it.
It's got some.
Did he really?
I do. I like it.
Well, no one else does.
I threw it out there actually last week a little bit and said throw a little bit of support behind it. But I've been told by proud Taswegian Julian O'Brien, currently residing up there in Wollongong, that he said, we Taswegians, we don't like the Jack Jumpers. Nope. As in, they bite us, they sting us, they annoy us. That's just kind of like the feeling that locals have about them. Does that ring true to you?
Oh, it rings true. I've got a couple on the acreage here if you need to test them out, Liam. Equally pipe, mate.
Will the locals have any trouble getting around it?
Oh, I don't know. I think some of the stuff that's been put forward is incredible. There's some bad ones, but it's more around at least the community's engaging in it and definitely want to have their say. Good luck picking it. I think Julian's actually, I think he's a front runner right now, right?
He seems to have some support with the Tridents. Yeah. I do. You're talking about trying to bring together all 3 parts of the state, and there's a big kind of element in the iconography of that works quite well. You like the Tridents, Cam?
I don't mind the Tridents. I like the Jack Jumpers too, and I understand, some of the negativity around it. But if you're an opposition team and you've got to roll into Tassie, that's the issue. You're getting this annoying team that's going to give you 40% with full intensity. And then you got to it's not going to be fun to play a team that is built on something that's annoying. I like it. I like it.
I'm liking you more and more, mate.
You know what? There's finally one of his around the country.
He's retired my singlet. He's given me the Jack Jumpers. I'm back on next week.
Yeah.
What Cam? What do you have as you know, if you got to choose from everything you've seen so far?
I did like the Tridents. I do like the idea. I felt it rolled off the tongue nicely. Julian O'Brien gives us a fair bit of grief on certain parts of the world. He loves his passion around the NBL, and he's a great guy for the times I've met him. So I don't want to give him too much credit, but I do like. That's probably one of the main ones I've liked so far. I don't know if it's legal to do, but the Tasmanian Trailblazers that someone threw out there in the last couple of weeks, I don't know what the situation is with the NBA. I don't understand. I'm not very smart, Stewie, if you haven't picked up on that, but I don't know the legal ramifications of that, but I felt that was all right too. But the Tridents I like.
Yeah.
I might enter myself, actually. I don't know if I can win all the tickets, but I'm definitely going to throw my name in the ring. Hey, you want to coach? Do you want to be a part of this in an official capacity, Stu?
Yeah, 100%. So, I mean, I looked at the positions that they've advertised, and I've got a lot of experience in those areas. And I thought about applying, but the one thing that I've said all along is I want to coach. Now, whether that's head coach, assistant coach, or wherever I am, I would love to be part of that journey. So I will be putting my hand up, and we'll just see where it lands. And if not, I'll be sitting courtside and with my two boys and my wife and watching every game live.
Don't worry about applying, mate. This is the application. Your hand is up.
We're the panel. Stewie, where do you, if we are the panel, let's throw some tough curly questions there, shall we?
This is Liam.
Where do you feel you're at in your coaching journey? You've been with the Chargers. Where do you feel you're at in terms of developing that?
Well, I suppose what I've said is I think I've recruited pretty well down here. We've probably got half the budget the other NBL 1 teams have, and I sort of put my hand up for the Southern Huskies role. That was a little bit of a debacle all the way along, from the travel to players. Yeah, there's a whole different range of things that I could go into that, I just don't want to get into at the moment. But if you look at my win-loss record at home through the Siebel, I mean, the last 3 years I coached in the Siebel, we won a championship, we made grand final. I think I was 30 wins and 4 losses at home. We brought Harry Froling in, Craig Moller in, Jarrett Weeks, Tad Duffermeyer. Christian Juralina was going to join us this year. I mean, I haven't had a problem recruiting, even though we haven't had the budget. I feel like I can't learn any more down here. I have to be part of the next step to get some more experience to one day hopefully pick up a head coaching role. Am I ready for that? I'm not sure. People said I wasn't ready to play, but I ended up 17 years. So you just don't know. You just sort of go along and see where you land at the moment. But definitely want to be 100% involved with this club.
Just on the recruiting, and of course, year 2020, which has just been crap from every single avenue, basketball or otherwise. How frustrated have you been this year? Because you have put together a fairly good crew again to go into the NBL 1 season. And everyone, we were going to be good this year. And, obviously that's how everyone should be feeling in a preseason. But the frustration around this year with the basketball, but also personally as well with all the stuff we're going through. Yeah,
it was frustrating. I mean, I think put together a fantastic team. I had Harry coming back, Christian Juralina, Craig Moller was joining us again. Tad Duffermeyer had signed. I thought we had a team that could do really well if we would have been knocking on the door for another premiership, and continued to build the community stuff as well, which is important down here. I'm not sure what I was disappointed, but I'm not 100% sure where I can go from here. So, if there's an opportunity, I'll take it.
What you speak about recruiting? What were your thoughts when you saw Tanner Krebs sign a 2-year deal with the Bullets? And Golding sign a 3-year deal with United.
Yeah, and I suppose that's a little bit disappointing. The timeline around the announcement, because I know Harry would have been very interested about being part of the first Tasmanian team. Craig Moller would love to be part of the first Tasmanian team. If we're sort of, that's the reason I was trying to get those guys and influence them to try and come down. My dark horse this year is I'm a big fan of Tad Duffermeyer. You guys haven't seen a lot of him, but I think he's going to be really good, and he is NBL ready. So that was, and to lose Tanner for 2 years. And the other clubs are smart enough that they're locking a lot of these guys in for 2 years, making the job a little bit more difficult down here. But I'm quietly confident we can put a strong side together and then hopefully build on that in the next few years to come, because they love it. They love it down here.
In discussions with possible players or with the NBL or the people who are choosing roles around it, how much do you think being a part of that early Cairns formation and getting them going and the issues you had to go through, and then of course the highs, which is the game we've just watched, how much do you think that can help you in your, I guess, the possibility for you to be able to talk to players for joining a new franchise and talk to clients and talk to the NBL about, you've lived it. We're 20 years later, you've been exactly in a situation a lot of people are going to be in 12 months' time.
Yeah, I think Cairns, obviously, I was a big part of that going forward. I could not see Tasmania ever having to go through something that Cairns did initially. Mm-hmm. They just weren't prepared at all. I think Larry's obviously done an amazing job with Vince also. Vince Crivelli's playing a big hand down here. He knows the market. He coached against me with Sandringham, so he understands. He loves Tasmania. He used to come down here and play golf before the games, and I don't think we're going to have the same issues at all setting up a strong competitive team in the initial stages. It's a great place to live. I think we can influence a number of players. I mean, for Harry and Craig in particular to come down here and play in the off-season 2 years in a row demonstrates that we're doing the right thing. Craig's, I think this would have been his third year, and he keeps coming back. So that sort of demonstrates what sort of place we have down here.
It's interesting to hear you talk about those kind of guys because there's been a lot of focus on the Tassie-born players and the fact that it would be good to have someone like Chris or Adam Gibson or these types of guys. But you seem to be talking about guys that perhaps the basketball community are more recently kind of more familiar with.
Yeah, I think Craig's certainly become a Tasmanian, so to speak. But I think if you look across the board here, Gibbo is probably towards his latter end of his career. Would he come down and play a year or two to be sort of establish that leadership among the group that you need, that understands it? Obviously, Goulding's, he's obviously said that he's not coming. He's got 3 years in Melbourne. Hugh Greenwood has obviously put his hand up a few times, but I can't see that ever happening. So I think for us, it's just getting a face to the program and really building around a couple of good Australian players like a Harry Froling or Craig Moller. Obviously, they're already signed, but those sort of guys could really set the standard, and you can build teams around those sort of guys.
Countdown's on, and the excitement's just building by each and every day. We're really 12 months away from this thing really starting to get put together. Hashtag NBL Rewind to get involved. Liam, you want to ask Stewie his brands and values and all the rest of it? If we're doing you want to leave it for another day?
No, I think we've got enough out there in the
ether. Hey,
Liam hasn't even been here, Cam.
What was that?
He hasn't even travelled down to Tasmania.
No, I was there down the Blitz. I played against the Chargers and the Thunder and all the. I just haven't been with
Geelong, right? You were Geelong.
What's that?
Who were you with, Geelong?
No, I came down there with Knox. Matty Knight put 40 on us.
Oh, yeah. There's another one. Like Matty Knight should be back here, like part of this program as well. Like there's a great guy to get back.
There's many around. Hashtag NBL Rewind to get involved. Hey, Stewie, it's fun talking Tasmanian basketball. I'm sure we're going to talk more about it with you over the next 12 months. But it's also fun talking about what a wonderful career you had. 489 games, 17 years, championships, Houston Rockets, couple of beers before it as you celebrate that first championship. It's been an outstanding career. And really, there's only one thing to do now is to raise Beecroft, Troy Stone. Of course, Mike Kelly is their coach there now, but the other two in particular, raise the jersey to the rafters. And I think right now, Liam and I are just a little stuck when it comes to our restrictions around moving. But once the season's back and we're allowed to leave the state, we'll be there. We'll watch you lift the jersey to the rafters.
I'm texting him straight after this.
Yeah, I will say though, Stewie, Cam talks a big talk on these shows about getting some of these types of things done. And then the follow through
Don't ruin
Leaves
my
a little
day.
bit to be desired. Leroy
Sorry
Loggins
about that.
still has not received his grand final MVP that you said you were going to make happen.
Yeah, well, hang on. Do you know what? To be fair, I think the NBL commissioner's had a couple of other little things on his mind rather than getting back to my emails. Once we get through COVID, then we'll start to worry about
Write the emails.
MVP.
Send the emails, Cam. There's a couple of steps to go.
Well, that's going to happen. So is the jersey in the rafters. Stewie, thank you, mate. We'll
Appreciate
talk again real soon.
Thanks, guys.